What's up, guys? This is Corey Baker from Baker Forge and Tool. In my business, we do tons of heavy grinding every single day, and we needed a grinder that could take abuse and keep on trucking without slowing down billet production. The Ameribraid variable speed 2x72 is just that. All heavy duty parts and framing with well thought out accessories that are easy to use and not bogged down with lots of tiny parts. By far the best accessory item that Ameribraid sells is their surface grinding attachment. It is absolutely foolproof and the best in the industry. With quick release magnet system, there is no prying your workpiece off the platen. Very fast to slap a billet or a knife onto the table, engage magnets, and start surfacing with precise increments. On top of all of this, their customer support is outstanding. Eric and Kevin are always available and fast to help with any situation. If you're in the market for a top-of-the-line grinder, or maybe just an accessory to add to your existing setup, go to ameribraid.com and use the code HUSTLE100 for $100 off any grinder package. All right, next up, the Hustle and Grind Podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Hustle and Grind podcast. I'm Noah from Any at River Forge. With me, as always, Ryan from Ryan Shadbourne Knife Works. Our guest today is Tyler Hackbarth from Wolf River Forge. How you doing, man?
Oh, not too shabby. How about you guys?
Doing all right, man. Doing all right. So I just want to jump in real quick to give our listeners a little bit of an introduction. Most of them probably have heard of you. You are a two-time Forge and Fire champion, and again, you Wolf River Forge on Instagram. If any listeners out there don't follow Tyler, I highly recommend you go check him out. You are a U.S. Army veteran, is that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
And then you were on, correct me if I'm wrong here, I think you were on the Battle of the Branches episode on Forged and Fire, is that correct?
Yep, that's correct as well.
So that was like a couple different episodes, wasn't it? Where you had to it started off, it was kind of Army versus Army guys, Navy versus Navy guys. And then it kind of tiered up until finally they got all those contestants into one show.
Right, yeah. So it started with, four guys in each one of the four episodes. And they had, the Army branch, obviously, which I started in, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Marines. And, I mean, you go into that, knowing that it's going to be this big tournament thing. But you have no idea what you're going into, who you're going up against, as anybody who's gone on Forged and Fire kind of knows. And I tell you, after, pulling through and taking the win for the Army episode, there was a small part of me that was just like, I kind of wish this would be over right now, because now I have to go through this all again and go against the other three winners, complete uncertainties again. How good are these guys going to be? How hard is this challenge going to be? And, luckily I went into that and then came out on top as well. So
nice.
Right on, man. And so are those the only two shows that you've been on Forged and Fire, or were you back after that? I feel like I remember.
Yeah, so I did go back on for Forged and Fire Beat the Judges, and that was a pretty good one as well. Ended
That's
up
right.
going against Ben Abbott, which in a super, splitting hairs type of competition, feeling like that could have went either way. And the win went to Ben, but it was a good fight, and Ben's a great competitor and just an all-around good dude to talk to as well. But he came out on top, and it is what it is. The money that he won for his charity actually went to Dark Horse Forge, which they pride themselves in taking veterans in and teaching veterans how to make knives and stuff like that. So, I wouldn't have wanted to see that go to any other cause than that right there. So it was still a win in my book.
Nice.
That's always the best outcome. That's super cool.
Yeah.
Right on, man. Well, sorry. So the Beat the Judges, that was like a totally different show than the normal Forged and Fire, right? Like that wasn't even were they even calling that Forged in Fire, or was that just sort of its own separate deal?
So it was still Forged in Fire, but it was Forged in Fire Beat the Judges. And, the layout, while there were still some similarities, was still completely different. And everybody that went on there was a previous champion in one way or another. And we had a very short amount of time before actually showing up there to film the episode to make a blade in our own style within their parameters. And I want to say it was like a 14 to 16 inch blade in your own style, must have mechanical connection. And those were the parameters right there. Like, no idea what they're going to test it on, anything at all. So we had a short amount of time to make those blades and ship them out. Boom. And we showed up and they went right into testing with those blades that we made at home. And then from there, I pulled through and ended up going against Ryu Lim, great smith. And then it was like a regular home forge, but except for the fact that we had to harvest some crazy random steels out of a big crate and metal drums and all sorts of other crap with sledgehammers. And it was just, we had like a couple minutes, bust into all this stuff and get whatever steel you can get. And we're getting, like 1/4-inch rod drill grates, and we each got a crowbar and like one little piece of leaf spring and a huge chunk of elevator cable. And I was just like, oh man, this is going to be fun. This is the only steel you can use for your blade.
They just put together the nastiest shit they could find and just said, hey, have fun with this.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Oh, you guys are going to have a great time here. One little hunk of leaf spring. And when you must use at least 2 of them in your build, I think it was. I don't remember if it was used 2 or I know you could only use that steel for your blade. So you could still, make a Damascus guard or a pommel or something like that. But the blade itself had to be made out of only the steel that you collected during the challenge. So that was a little bit rough.
Yeah. What steel is this, and how do I heat treat it? That's
oh, right.
That's the challenge right there.
Right. And what's going to give me enough steel to even make a 27-inch sword that has to be, I want to say it was like 2.5 or 3 inches wide at where like the clip came back on the 9-ring broadsword at a minimum width right there. Yeah.
Oh, that was that one. Okay. See, I meant to go back and kind of watch some. It's been a while since I've watched Forged in Fire, so I meant to kind of go back and try and familiarize myself before this conversation. But I apologize. I've been sick all week, so I've been trying to just recover.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so that was the 9-ring sword where you had the actual rings set in the spine, right?
Yep.
That's a fancy one.
Yeah, and there was. The nice thing was that one of the steels they gave us was that 1/4-inch round 01 that, we had a whole bunch of straight bars that were like, a little tacked together. Gotcha. Like great. So I was able to just pop that apart and make a little jig to wrap them around nice and hot, and then popped them through the holes that were there before heat treat with nice chamfers on them and just twisted them closed, tack welded them shut, boom, 9 rings.
Nice. All right. Well, that makes it a little bit easier, I guess.
Right.
Did they talk about the function of those 9 rings? Like, what was the purpose historically behind that? Do you know?
So, I did a little bit of reading on it, obviously, when I did the build. And obviously I could be wrong here, but there was a lot of, training in the Asian culture with the 9-ring broadsword, and just like the shifting of the weight as the rings would go forward, as well as just, being a loud, monstrous weapon to just scare enemies and stuff.
Yeah, I guess intimidation is probably a solid force to have when you're on the battlefield.
Oh, absolutely.
I guess you would probably know about that, right?
Oh, yeah. We're always doing our best to severely outgun the enemies.
I remember when I was a kid putting rocks inside of a wiffle ball bat. because it would crack when the rocks hit the end of the bat. That's kind of like the same idea.
Yeah, pretty much. You pretty much had a 9-ring wiffle ball bat.
All right. Well, hey, let's swing right into that. So you were in the you're an Army veteran. How long were you in for?
I spent 6 years on active duty in the infantry.
Damn. All right. Excuse me.
No,
still trying to get some tickles out of my throat there. I keep coughing in between words here. This is terrible. Were you in Iraq, Afghanistan? Did you spend some time overseas?
Yeah, so I spent 15 months straight in Iraq during the surge, 2007 to 2008. And the first year, pretty much, we spent down in the Baghdad, Sadr City area. And then our final 3 months, we spent up in northern Iraq and Mosul. Did a lot of capturing high-value targets, cordons and raids, finding weapons caches, and just, nonstop patrols, nonstop craziness, firefights, IEDs. Lost some good guys, but that experience, it made me who I am today and made me who I am as a knife maker, which is that determination and resiliency in everything that I do.
Yeah, I know a lot of guys who have been over there. Some who didn't come back, but the mindset that most of those guys have that did come back is nothing else is really a challenge for them. I mean, I don't want to say nothing, but I mean, the things that some of us look at as challenges are just part of the operation to them. It's things that we would consider to be setbacks are just, that's just part of it, man. And it definitely seems to give you a different mindset in the way that you go about your daily life.
Right, absolutely. And just you saying that, so like when I went on Forged in Fire, obviously, like I said, you have no idea what you're going up against, but you walk out there, you keep your head held high, and you're presented with that challenge, and nail those parameters down in your skull and remember them. And within seconds, as soon as I know what that challenge is, I'm developing a plan in my head. Okay, here's exactly what I need to do. I can't hang up too much time on this. I can't, do this or do that. I can't make it absolutely perfect because, let's be honest, 3 hours, to make a blade is not a lot of time. But you got to tell yourself what the priorities are. What do you have to get done right? Heat treat, blade shape, meet the parameters, make a comfortable handle. And if something happens, or something hangs up on you, you have to think. You can't panic. Find a workaround. Find a different way to do it. Find a way to do it faster, whatever. And, it's that Army mindset that, a lot of people tell me, like, you don't even look like you were phased at all. You weren't nervous. You weren't nothing. And it's, sure, I was nervous. Who isn't nervous going on that show? But
nobody was shooting at you.
Right, exactly. I'm like, this could be totally worse. But yeah, you focus on what you have to do and just block everything else out. Forget that there's a camera 3 feet away from your face watching your every move, and forget that the judges are yelling at you from 20 feet away, and just do what you have to do to complete the challenge.
That's awesome,
man. That's why you won twice.
Right.
Evidently. Right on, man. Well, hey, on this show, we like to play some silly games, and one of the things we like to do with our guests, just to kind of get some quick and fast information out of you, so that we can kind of get to know you a little bit, is play a little game of this or that, where I just throw out 2 options, and you got to go with one of those options and tell me the lesser of the 2 evils. So,
okay.
Fast pace. I'm going to throw these at you. Tell me what you got.
Okay.
Here we go. Growth or security?
Ooh, growth. If you're not
See the
growing,
future
you're
or
just. I was gonna say, if you're
stagnant?
not growing, you're just standing still. Yeah.
See the future or change the past?
Ooh, I'm gonna say see the future.
Curly
yeah.
Koa or Maple Burl?
Curly Koa every day.
Ooh. That's a
Air
hard
guitar? It's not a hard one. It's Koa every. Come on.
one.
Air guitar or air drums?
Ooh, air guitar for sure. Just play my heart out.
Test the waters. Test the waters or dive in the deep end?
Dive in the deep end. Shock and get it over with.
This is I didn't write this down, but this is kind of in relation to like Damascus patterns here. Simple and bold or complex and high layer?
Complex and high layer.
Chocolate or vanilla?
Ooh, chocolate.
Pizza or tacos?
Taco pizza.
Nice.
Damn it. Way too spicy or way too sour?
Ooh, way too spicy for sure.
San Mai or Damascus?
Damascus San Mai.
Damn it to hell. Boxers or briefs?
Neither. Absolutely nothing. Hey, spend 15 months wearing like 100 pounds of gear. You want to wear as little as possible.
Okay. All right. Last one here. Step on a Lego or smack your pinky toe on a coffee table?
Ooh, I'm going to step on that Lego every time.
All right. There we go. I'm going to say I have to agree with you on that last one.
I think that's why they call it commando.
Right. Hey, maybe.
Wait, is it?
I think so. I think that's why they call it going commando.
That's a good point.
No, I mean, Ryan. When you're, it's 120 to 130 degrees over there. You're literally sweating your nutsack off. No matter what you wear, a half hour in when you're completely drenched in sweat, there's nothing you can do. So just get rid of it.
And I'm sorry, how much gear did you like? How many pounds worth of gear do you say you're wearing?
Oh, it would vary anywhere from 60 to 100 pounds. I mean, I would say our vests alone with armor plates are probably pushing 30 pounds.
Damn.
Yeah, I'm a bitch when I go to the gym. I thought I was doing pretty good, but man, never mind. I take it back.
Just change it up and put on a plate carrier and then do everything and then slowly add things onto it. Like start with like 1 fully loaded mag, then bump it up to 3, and then 7 for a full combat load, and then just sling a rifle.
I don't know how the people at Planet Fitness would feel about that.
Ooh, yeah, they don't like to hurt people's feelings. You might want to switch to like anytime. I think they'd allow it.
Oh, okay, all right.
Is that true? You can't grunt at Planet Fitness. You can't be like with a bar, or they'll kick you out. Is that true?
I don't know. They have like this big light on the wall that's like the lunk alarm, and they have like a definition of lunk, which is like somebody who like slams weights or grunts or something like that. I don't know.
Yep.
I've never seen it go off though, so
I've only been in one time, and
I just go there. I don't talk to anybody. I lift my weights. I have my headphones in the whole time. I wave to the person on my way out. That's pretty much it. I just go there, do my thing, and leave.
Right. Just pick things up, put them down.
It's pretty chill. Exactly. My whole life, I thought. Well, not my whole life, but like my whole life. I've always had like a physical job. Like I've never sat behind a desk before. So my whole life I was like, I don't need to go to the gym. I torque head bolts for a living. Like, why do I need to go to the gym? And then I started going to the gym and I'm like, oh, No, this actually feels really good. Now I understand why people go here. This makes sense.
Yeah. And blue collar muscles
right.
are different than weightlifting muscles.
Well,
like,
that
you know, I'd challenge anybody to a thumb wrestling contest. You know what I mean? Being a mechanic like you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, we got them lined up for Blade Show. There's multiple people that want in on this trade versus trade thumb wrestling competition. So it's going to be mechanics versus carpenters versus, I don't remember who else was in there. Maybe a plumber. I can't remember.
So
mechanics all
right away,
day, bro. Yeah,
you can have
all day long.
Knuckle smashing contest, and then a smash a finger with a hammer contest. Who can take more? You're like, you smash my knuckles all day. I do this all the time. This is easy.
Yeah.
All day, son.
You mean this club? Oh, I've smashed this 7,000 times.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I had somebody giving me grief for the way that I was holding my hammer with my thumb, and I told him, I was like, dude, I don't have wimpy little carpenter thumbs like you. Like, my thumbs are made out of solid steel. Like, I don't have to worry about it like some people. Right. And that just kind of evolved into this whole thing. It's gotten a little out of hand. I have to watch my mouth sometimes. Yeah.
That takes the fun.
Actually, believe it or not, I got the closest to getting sent to HR that I ever have at my job this last week.
Nice.
That means you're doing it right.
Right?
You're doing it right. You're pushing the limit.
See, my buddies at work have always said that, like, if we ever worked a regular job, we would get sent to HR on a daily basis, and we'd probably lose our jobs within several weeks. Like, it wouldn't last long. But we upped the ante because there's this one individual who we've just been kind of psychologically torturing over the last week and a half, maybe 2 weeks now. And it got to the point where he got so mad that he ripped his computer screen off of the wall, and like somehow that was my fault. So anyways, it was all good. My boss is super cool. My boss thought it was actually kind of funny, so it actually worked out for me in the end. But I was told I wasn't allowed to mess with his computer anymore. but you'll note there, I was told specifically I wasn't allowed to mess with his computer anymore. So
right,
I will not mess with his computer. No other guidelines were given. Right. I will not mess with his computer.
Doesn't mean you can't mess with everything else. His desk.
And here, let me get your guys' opinion on this. Do the keyboard and mouse count as part of his computer?
Yeah.
Dang it!
Technically,
all right, I had plans for the mouse.
Hold on. Are they Bluetooth or are they wired?
Ooh, that's a good point. I'll have to check. I don't know.
If they're wired, they're technically attached to the computer.
Right, but if they're not, then those are separate.
You can be like, I didn't know that mouse was connected to his computer wirelessly. I can't see rays in the air.
Am I psychic? How am I supposed to know that? Yeah?
Right. What am
Maybe it's just me, but every job I've ever had, we've fucked with each other. Like, bad. Like, my coworkers now, I've literally...
It's boring.
Yeah, right. I've literally sprayed the front of his shirt with solvent and just lit him on fire. There you go. Fucking mouth off again.
Yeah, we're not supposed to light people on fire anymore either, though.
He chews tobacco and he spits into paper cups and he leaves them everywhere. So when he leaves them in my work area, I take him before he gets there, put him on his bench, and put his favorite tools in it.
You gotta
and that's his fault.
Find his car keys one day, like on his toolbox. Boom.
Oh.
He put a dead mouse under my windshield wiper one day. So we found like this dead bloated mouse inside of a lawnmower, and he put it under my windshield wiper. And it was like raining that day, and I didn't notice it. So I got in my car and turned the wipers on, and it was just like swiping a dead mouse across my windshield. So before he came out, I whipped out my valve stem tool real quick, and I took all 4 of his valve stems and left.
Oh my god!
I actually put a live mouse in a guy's toolbox or not in his toolbox, in his lunchbox at work one time. Somebody came over and like threw this mouse at me, and it was small and it was like slow and stunned, and I'm like, I know what I'm going to do with this. So I picked it up. Dude was in the bathroom, not running his machines. Went over there, dropped it in his lunchbox, zipped it back close, waited for him to eat his lunch.
We found one that was like doing like a surfer pose that was like mummified, and we super glued its feet to one of them little skateboards, like a Tech Deck skateboard.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know whatever happened to it, but he hung around the shop for a while.
Off of this.
I've got probably 2 hours of videos of my brother and my brother used to work with us, and my coworker fucking with each other. Like I've posted a couple of them, but there's just too many. Like my brother would take old lawnmower belts and just walk up behind him and whap, like whip him right in the back with it.
That's brutal, man. Those things are harsh.
Yeah.
Big like solid hydraulic line. That stuff's pretty harsh too. Like have you ever like whipped somebody with that?
No, dude. That'll take off chunks. That's bad.
Yeah. That's rough. Like, I'm thinking like the hydraulic lines on my press, like that's not small.
No, exactly like that. Exactly like that. Yeah. It basically looks like it looks like basically like 5/8 like heater hose, right? If you look at it, if you don't look too close, it just looks like a heater hose, but it's actually like 4 times heavier, and it's got some heft to it.
That's mean.
It's got, braided wire inside the hose. Yeah, give it some weight.
I'm really good at whipping towels from working in restaurants so long. Like I can whip a towel. And my coworker Chancey was mouthing off one day, and I just took my shop towel and I dunked it in some water, and I just walked up to him and whoop-bop! Took a hole right out of his shirt, drew blood on his back. No. He's like, ah! Oh yeah! I was like, I told you.
You can break skin for sure.
Yeah, I've exploded the ends of towels. Like you get them whipped hard enough, and they're wet, and the tip will just go poof into like nothing. It just turns to dust.
I actually forgot about that.
Yeah, we used to shut machines off when it was slow in the restaurant. You'd be like, see if you can flick that switch with the towel, and you turn the machine off, turn it back on.
Yeah, back when I did my time in the restaurant industry, we used to in the summertime you would wear shorts in the kitchen, and there's bare skin. I mean, you'd go home with just welts all over your calves from constant just being like whipped back and forth with those towels. I mean, it was brutal.
One of the things I hated the most when I was cooking is if another cook was losing his temper, because that shit's contagious, and then you go downhill from there.
Oh yeah.
So I was cooking with a guy one time, and he starts flipping out. So I just grabbed the spatula and I stuck it in the fryer, and I held it there for a second.
Oh my gosh!
Touched the back of his arm with it, right on the back of his arm. He's like, "Yeah!" I was like, "See, there's worse things to be mad about." I was like, "Keep cooking, bro. Chill the fuck out." He told me later on he legitimately thought about fighting me in that moment. And I was like, "Dude, come on, just chill out."
I probably would have. You get that rage going. Yeah. Well. For me, it's like whenever I smack my head, the problem is that when you smack your head, like when you're in your stall at work, like by yourself, you smack your head on like a control arm or the lift arm. That's pretty bad. It's like this like pure rage just like washes over you. Like for some reason, like getting smacked in the head is like the one thing that pisses me off. And well, mechanics in general, I think it's not just me. It just pisses you off more than anything else. The problem is that it's entirely your fault. So it makes you even more mad.
Right. Yep.
You know what does
Yeah,
that
I'm the
for me
same
in
way.
the lawnmower? Nice. You know what does it for me? And it's not really mad. It's like, ugh, like you're just gross the fuck out. I do small engines. So when I've got a lawnmower on a lift and you look under the deck and it's just like a forest of mold and you have to stand under the deck and then you get like a drip of green, nasty water down the back of your neck. Because you know what's in it. It's just nasty. I've gotten it in my eye before. Been like doing something and a clump of moldy grass lands in my eye. Like, fucking gross.
It's been fermenting
you
underneath
took
that deck
antibiotics
months.
through your eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a disease waiting to happen. I remember when
Yeah.
we were talking. Who were we talking to? It was
Ira
Ira
Housework.
when he dipped his hand in his quench bucket and got an infection from that just because he had a random cut on his hand. Like, I imagine that's on that same level of where, you know, you got fermented grass for months at a time being stuck under that deck.
I had like a green like hue to my bucket after that episode, and the only thing I had ground differently was antler.
Ooh.
So I wonder if the antler provides like a food for the fungus or something. But I posted a picture of it, and Ira messaged me. He goes, "Remember my story?" He goes, "That's what my bucket looked like." It's like, yeah, I just put a lid on it and got a new one.
Just bury that in the woods.
Just gonna set this aside. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sitting out in my driveway. I'm gonna take it to work.
50 years.
I mean, I let the metal get all the way up till it's like an island coming out of the water.
Yeah.
And then you knock it over, add a little bit more water.
Yep.
You can't get rid of that stuff. It doesn't. You can't burn it. You can't, like, all you can do is throw it in the trash. It's kind of a shame, but
I have two buckets. I have my dip bucket and then my catch bucket. My catch bucket has like a little bit of water in it to just make sure that nothing catches on fire. And then once it gets full, I just set it to the side and then get a new bucket and then let it dry out and then just dump all the metal shavings, handle shavings, all the crap that's been in there. I just dump that all in the garbage.
The slug.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I tried to burn it one time. It didn't work. It just turned into one giant toxic coal in my fire pit.
Just get a little bit of cancer. That's all.
Dude, I went out the next day and poked it with a stick.
Only if you're in California.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It'll only cause cancer in California. Not anywhere else.
Right. Well, Ryan, do we want to hear from another one of our sponsors here real quick?
Yeah, let's do Maritime Knife Supply. Shout out to the man, Lawrence Lake.
Hustle and Grind is sponsored by Maritime Knife Supply. Whether you're looking for steel, abrasives, handle material, forges, epoxy, or anything for making in general, Maritime Knife Supply has you covered. And in the U.S. or Canada, they ship faster than the great Cobra chicken goosesses that their country is known for. Go to Maritime Knife Supply, and when you buy a 10-pack of belts, get 10% off. And tell them we sent you, eh?
Thanks, Luke.
Thanks, Luke. So speaking of... What? Go ahead.
Go ahead. You go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, speaking of Maritime, I was talking to Ryan just before the show, and I was talking about these Norax belts that I got from Lawrence. And I think Kyle Daly, when he was on, he was telling us about these Norax belts that are kind of like the Gator belts that we always talk about, but they're from Norton, and they actually have ceramic grains in that structured abrasive. And I tried one out for the first time this week, and I really wanted to test it out. So I went straight from my 36 grit roughed in bevels to this. I think it's the equivalent of 220. I think it's like X65 or something, whatever they put it as. The equivalent was around 220. And I went straight from 36 grit to these Norax 220s, and it cleaned out those 36 grit scratches like nothing. I couldn't believe it. And it was fast too. Like, it wasn't, normally you go from like 36 to 80 or 36 to 120 or something like that. But I just decided I wanted to just go for it and just went straight to 220. I cannot tell you how much time that saved me. That belt was amazing. I kind of crapped on it a little bit last week or the week before because I was talking about what a heavy backing that belt has. But when you're going straight from 36 to that 220, I mean, it's basically the same thickness. So it works really well. So I'm probably going to buy a couple extra grits and just kind of see what I can do with it, because it worked really well. I mean, it was a nice 220 finish, and I went straight from that 220 to like a hand brushed 220, and yeah, it worked really, really great. So highly recommend those. I can't remember, there's two of them on there. It's like a UL, there's like a number associated with it, but anyways, great belts. Highly recommend them. If anybody's looking to try out some new structured abrasives. I know we're always talking about structured abrasives on here, but the reality is there's still, I mean, I ground 8 steak knives, and that belt, like, I didn't even have to hit it with the diamond stone or anything. Like, it's still cutting strong. That belt is going to last for another 20 knives, probably, that one belt. So yeah, it costs like $11.50 for one belt. But I mean, if you're using a regular 220 belt, first of all, it wouldn't have taken out 36 scratches, and it definitely would not last that long. So I was super impressed. So
no,
shout out
we know
to Lawrence.
how I feel about structured abrasives.
We know.
I swear by structured abrasives.
I mean,
and
I was gonna say 5 minutes on a structured abrasive, will save you 30 minutes hand sanding.
Yeah. Oh yeah, easily.
Yep. And Noah and I were talking about it before we started recording, and my Trizac belts that I always talk about, I've been using the same set for about a year. I only keep one of each. I only keep one of each in backup. And you just keep resurfacing until there's nothing left.
Yep.
And how many knives do you think you've made in that time? Rough estimate.
130.
Two and a
Jeez.
Like what?
So Tyler, are you a full-time maker now?
I am a full-time maker. I've been full-time since let me think. End of July 2020.
Oh damn, so a while now.
Yep. Yeah, so this July should be 3 years.
Right on, man. That's awesome. So one of the things that I have noticed about your work that I really, it's kind of a distinguishing feature, but you use a lot of exposed bolts. Like, you don't do a lot of pins like a lot of other people do. You don't use Corbies like a lot of other people do, but you seem to really enjoy using those exposed bolts. Where did that come from, and kind of what led you to that style?
So for me, a lot of it was, not only strength, having a nice look, but the biggest thing is, being able to get that nice Damascus finish all the way around your handle, as well as having, a nice polished handle. And I mean, the easiest, most economical way to do that is to use a nice set of screws. And, you can shape your handle, polish it, everything, pop your handle scales off, hand sand your blade to whatever finish before etching, and then you can polish and wax that whole blade, put your handles on at the end, and you're done. And, that's for, like my hunters and a lot of like my regular models and stuff that I do. But at the same time, I've been steering away from that on, I would say, a lot more recently in the past 6 months and stuff, as I push more towards, doing classy or higher end blades, small bowies, daggers, all sorts of stuff like that. And, a lot of guys, they want mosaic pins, or they want to have pins in there just because of the look. And it is still doable to etch, around the spine of your handle and everything. It just requires a little more work, but it also, it gives it a nicer finish. But at the same time, I'm trying to gear towards, doing more of the complex knives that challenge you and challenge your fit and finish and everything. And it just makes you a better maker. And so, I cut back on the amount of custom orders that I was taking, just because it was a lot of the same stuff over and over and over. Sit back and make 10 Damascus hunting knives, make, 10 Damascus fighters, whatever, and you're making 5 of this pattern and 5 of that pattern. And it starts to kind of take the joy out of it because, you go from having freedom to kind of make what you want to, like now you're kind of locked back into a regular day job. Oh, today I've got to work on hunters. Tomorrow I've got to work on hunters. The next day I've got to work on fighters. And, there's a lot of guys out there with big wait times and stuff. And I would just say, don't get sucked into that, taking down payments on knives and stuff like that. You're like, yeah, you get the money, but you get sucked in and fixed into just making the same thing over and over. And what one of your questions was before was, what was it? Security or something?
Yeah, growth or security.
Yeah, so that's a perfect example right there. Do you want to have security of making the same knife over and over, or do you want to have growth? And that's what you have to ask yourself in that position. Do you want to be stuck doing that, or do you want to continue to grow yourself as a maker and make things more complex and make more complex Damascus patterns and just, push your fit and finish to the next level every time you make a knife? And so that's what I've been pushing towards doing more here, I would say the last 6 months to a year. And while I still do make, knives with screws in the handles and stuff like that, keep them affordable for people, I still, if I'm making a couple of those, I like to make a couple extra small Bowie knives or a large Bowie or a dagger or something, and just give myself freedom on that build and use whatever I want for materials and just try to make the coolest knife I can.
Nice. And what are those bolts called? They're Gulso bolts. Is that how you say it? Gulso.
No.
Gulso.
Those actually, so the Gulso bolts are made by John Gulso, or were designed by him, and he's actually from Wisconsin. He actually, speaking of Bowies, I made a vest Bowie that he came and picked up a couple of months ago and sat and talked to him, and he actually designed those. And now Maker Material Supply is the one that still makes them and distributes them. But what I use is just coated screws and standoff, which is essentially just a threaded barrel that you can put through that will engage both of your handle scales and your tang of your knife. And then, with a slight counterbore, your screws tighten from both sides and tighten against each other.
Right. Yeah. I've used those in the past. I don't think I've ever actually sold something that had those, but I've been experimenting with those for quite a while because I've been trying to, I don't know, kind of come up with like an EDC that has like some really simple scales on it, something that I can sell for more of an affordable price. So I've played around with those. I have a ton of them in my shop, cut to different lengths and like trying to figure out for different handle thicknesses and all that jazz. But I haven't actually made something that I was like, oh, hey, this has a nice enough fit and finish where I can sell it, So
Right.
It's just one of those things that you just kind of have to figure out for yourself. But back to what you're talking about, wanting to grow and everything. Where did you actually initially learn your knife making? Who did you learn from, or where did you learn from?
I am entirely self-taught.
Awesome.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, I took a folder class with John Doyle a few years ago, but other than that, I am entirely self-taught. I spent just shy of 10 years in CNC machining. So I worked with metal and stuff like that for years and years, machining and all sorts of different other stuff, but obviously never, high carbon steels. And I'm not, heating up a forge at 2000 degrees and forging stuff out. But that machinist background really helps when you're doing, the complex build, internal pins on a Bowie knife. And just holding tight tolerances to get the tightest possible fit if you can on handle components and stuff like that. But other than that, I mean, it was a lot of trial and error.
Wow, that's not what I expected to hear you say. Because the level of quality that you put out lends itself towards somebody who's at least had some sort of formal training. That is incredible. So you've been making for how long then?
About 5.5 years.
God almighty. 5.5 years, completely self-taught. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So you want to know the best part here? When I went on Forge and Fire and did the Battle of the Branches, I had been making knives for a year.
Nice. That's awesome.
And, you know, I mean, go ahead.
I don't have anything to say. Holy shit. Okay.
I mean,
my
you know,
my
so
knives at 1 year did not look like that. I'll just put it out there. My knives at 1 year did not look like that.
So how much time did you spend in the shop your first year?
Oh, probably a lot less now that you say that, because I've always been a part-time maker. So I've always worked a full day job and just kind of been in the shop, you know, a couple hours after work, and then, you know, 8 to 16 hours on the weekends, depending on the weekend. So.
Right. So, I mean, that's actually a pretty good amount. You know, we talk about Forge and Fire. One of the things that's misleading on the show is you get a guy on there who's like, "Oh, I've been making blades for 8 years." Well, how much time do you spend in your shop in that 8 years as a part-time maker? You know, and sometimes guys are like 10, 12 hours on Saturday. That's it. So, you know, and I was working a full-time job as a plant manager at that machine shop while I started diving into knife making. But like when I started diving in, I dove in because of Damascus. You know, the art of that Damascus is, because essentially you're only limited on your Damascus pattern by your mind. What can you come up with? What sort of, you know, trial and error of new patterns can you do to make, you know, something crazy that nobody else has ever made before? And that, I mean, that still drives me today. So when I first started, you know, obviously I had a crappy little Harbor Freight anvil that was cast iron, and I don't think it was hardened at all, because you'd hit it and put a hammer mark in it every time.
Every time, yeah.
You know,
I'm familiar with that anvil.
Right, exactly. Forge some bottle openers, forge this and that, start taking, you know, railroad spikes and learning how to move metal, you know, and like I would start following guys on Instagram and stuff like that and just watch them like hammering stuff out and everything. And, you know, how do you move this? How do you move that? What's the most efficient way to do it? And then, I kind of worked up in my first couple of months to, okay, I'm going to stick some different pieces of steel together and make my first Damascus. Well, with a hammer, it's a son of a bitch.
It is.
So
yes.
After I made my first few, you know, and I set out to, you know, and I didn't have a ton of money at the time, just paying my bills, doing knife making as a hobby. So everything I made from knife making just went back into knife making, and that's when I turned around and said, I need to build a press. You know, I have a machinist background. I can take a log splitter and turn it into a halfway decent press. And that's what I did. And then from there, I mean, you can go from hammering Damascus with a hammer and making it that way to a press. And you go from, you know, being able to do Damascus at this level to taking it way up here almost instantly, as you know, can move steel 50 times faster.
Only 50?
Definitely way faster.
Yeah, way faster. It's awesome.
But I mean, when you do that and you're self-taught, it takes a lot, you know, like I say, a lot of trial and error. But if you continue to look at yourself, like, just tell yourself you don't have everything figured out, you know. And I'm always trying to constantly think of how I can do things better, more efficient, more accurately, faster. And if you keep that mindset, you find ways to do things better and better and better on your own. Where I feel like, you know, maybe if somebody had showed me a bunch of stuff, I wouldn't have developed my process of how I make my knives the exact same way. And maybe I might not be anywhere near as good as I am right now.
That's a very interesting perspective. I like that.
I mean, not to say that I'm like amazing or anything, but
I don't know, man. Your work is incredibly clean and I can't say this for sure, but I think you're the first, if not one of the first people who I saw put Damascus under a stainless Sanmai.
Yeah.
And
So when I started doing the Damascus Go My, that's been years. And the cool thing was I actually had a buddy that I served in Iraq with who was like, dude, so like, can we put like stainless and Damascus and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, how about this? How about, let's do a nice solid core steel. We'll slap 50 layers on both sides and try to put stainless on the outside and see what happens. And, it was just instant a hit. People are, what is this steel? What is this? And this was, before Coy Baker and Baker Forge and Tool and everybody took off, and just are crazy busy and stuff. And I want to say I've had that Go My Steel in magazines at least 3 or 4 times now, and it's something that I kind of pride myself in. I call it my signature Go My, but it's one of my favorites for sure.
Oh, myself as well. Yeah, you were the inspiration for me to try doing Damascus under a stainless Sanmai, and I love the way that looks. It's such a cool, interesting way to highlight the different types of steel, and the fact that you can manipulate the stainless in certain ways to allow the Damascus underneath to show through in certain ways, and it's such a cool, versatile way to do it.
Yeah, I mean I think the first time I made it, I put pure nickel in between the core and in between the Damascus and the stainless, and then came down to, like, I was running low on nickel one time, but I still wanted to highlight the core, so I didn't put it between the Damascus and the stainless, and it comes out, and you're just like, ooh, carbon transfer.
Yeah. I love that carbon transfer line. The way it makes the whole piece look more dynamic. It gives it such more depth of feel when you're looking at it. There's something about it.
Right. So now the next challenge I have is, so just recently in the last week or two, I did do a Damascus Sanmai with copper. So my goal is to set out and make signature Go My with copper on both sides of the core. But obviously the trick is there that you can't forge weld your stainless to your Damascus and your copper all at the same time, because you'll have liquid copper.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. What kind of temperature? Well, you say that, but there's we had Tobias Hangler on the show a while ago, and he actually has done a piece where he took it wasn't Damascus, it was I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was a solid piece of carbon and then a copper and then a stainless jacket, and he forged that all together.
So in that case, it would work, because at the specific temperature for copper, what you're using, your copper is the glue. So you're trying to glue with copper. But now, like in my signature Go My billet, now when I forge weld stainless, when I'm forge welding stainless to high carbon steel, I run my temperatures quite a bit warmer than what I forge weld copper at. So, I honestly, I put a Go My billet together and I put some copper in there and I heated that baby up like I was going to set a regular Go My billet, and I seal welded the entire thing, and it went and copper shot everywhere. And
copper everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Liquid molten copper. Because, so you're forge welding the stainless to the carbon steel, and then you're also trying to forge weld, or stick your copper in there without making it molten copper. So nonetheless, then I turned around. I was like, okay, I know what the temperature is. I need to, just focus on forge welding the copper. And so I did that Damascus Sanmai with copper. So my thought process now is, normally I would take my core steel, boom, put my 50 layers of Damascus, my nickel in between, put my stainless on the outside, and seal weld the entire thing forge weld it all together in one go. But to do that with copper, I'm going to have to forge weld my stainless to my Damascus separately, draw it out,
Right.
and then
Okay.
stack it
Yeah.
up like a Sanmai. Where those are, I've got my jacket steels and my core, 3 pieces, boom, put my copper in there, and then just focus on the temperature that it takes to forge weld the copper.
Because the melting point of copper is what, like 1900 degrees? Is that correct?
16,
Yep.
I think.
No, it's 1900.
19.
Yeah, and it's
And when
it's a
you're
very fine
forging,
line right around 1900 degrees.
yeah, when you're forge welding stainless to carbon, I mean, you want to be up above 2000, right? Like,
Yeah, I'm normally shooting for probably like 22 plus.
Okay, yeah, I go off of I in my forge currently when I'm forging stainless.
Right. Yes, screaming bright yellow.
It's basically as hot as my cheap little forge can get it. That's where I need it to be to forge stainless properly.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that copper's a little more finicky. Yeah, I haven't tried the copper just because I don't think I have quite the temperature control needed to make it successful every time, and I don't want to be just wasting material over and over again.
Right. Do you have an oven?
I have an oven, yes.
So how high does your oven go?
I think it's rated to go up to like 2200 degrees. Are you saying that I should forge weld in my oven?
You absolutely should.
Oh, you do have cheap power where you live too. You got that cheap electricity.
So here's what I did. I put a plate,
put a billet together,
a 1/4-inch plate in the bottom of my oven to protect it in case, some copper did leak out at some point in the forging process and not completely damage the insulating brick. But the other nice thing with doing that, so, however deep your oven is, I would say put a 1/4-inch plate in there that is the width of it and say however long you're going to forge your copper steel out, okay? Put it in there, whether it's the whole length of the oven or whatever, and it's going to take a long time to heat up because it's also heating up the thermal mass of your 1/4-inch plate. But that plate is going to retain that heat in there insanely better than when you just go in there and you pull a billet out, or think about when you pull a knife out of there to quench it. Like you got to move fast because you're losing color. But the second you go forge that billet, and it's not a very hot temperature, 1900 degrees isn't crazy bright yellow like we're forging Damascus and stuff in our forges and things like that. You can't move it a whole lot, so you got to get over there, be fast, forge weld it, move it a little bit, throw it back in, but it heats up that much faster with all of that thermal mass of that metal plate in there, so that you're not now I got to throw this back in here and wait 10, 15 minutes for it to heat back up. So with as accurate as you need to be with copper, definitely use your oven.
This is a very hot tip for the listeners out there. That is, I like that a lot. I don't
want to give all the tips away.
Okay, well, I gave away one of mine last week, but we do an after show now for our patrons get to listen to an after show. So I gave away one of my hot tips last week and got some good feedback on it. So that was nice.
Oh, nice.
But speaking of which, that was a hand sanding hot tip. Ryan, do we want to hear from our sponsor that carries all those sorts of abrasives that you would need for that sort of thing?
Sure.
Hustle and Grind podcast is sponsored by Phoenix Abrasives, your one-stop abrasive shop. When you go to phoenixabrasives.com, click the shop icon in the upper right-hand corner to find all the abrasives you'll ever need. Check out the Incinerator 36 grit ceramic belts, along with the Trizact Gator belts that the hosts of Hustle and Grind use every day. When you check out, use code HUSTLE10 for 10% off your entire order.
Thanks, Luke. So before we get any further here, I should say, I just wanted to quickly shout out as well. Brian Hunt from Hidden Rose Forge is doing a raffle to help pay for some eye surgery for his daughter. For those of you who don't know, his daughter has a rare eye condition, and it wasn't covered. The surgery that she needs isn't covered by their insurance because insurance companies are bastards. So
Absolutely.
to help pay for that, he's doing another waffle. Yeah, we all know. So
Everybody loves
just
waffles.
to quickly run through that. Everybody loves waffles. It's freaking great. And this, I mean, Brian Hunt does some really, really good work. So the prize for the raffle is a winner's choice chef or a hunter. So you get to choose. He did say that if he does sell enough tickets, then he's going to throw in a second one. So there will potentially be up to 2 chef and or hunters, depending on what the winner wants. Like I said, the proceeds go for her eye surgery. He's going to run it for about 2 or 3 weeks. There is going to be unlimited entries because this is basically a fundraiser to try and get the surgery taken care of. You can go to his page, which is Brian Hunt Hidden Rose Forge on Instagram. He's going to have a link to his website in his bio. You can go straight to his website to buy tickets, or if you prefer, you can just shoot him a DM, PayPal or whatever to buy tickets there. Tickets are only $10 each, so super easy to go in there and support a fellow maker, support his family. You know, it's a really crappy situation that he's been put in, or that his family's been put in. So we definitely want to support him in that, like we always do. We always support the people in the community that need help, and we love doing that. So please, everybody, go check out that fundraiser for Brian Hunt's daughter.
Absolutely.
I'm probably going to be doing a big raffle soon.
Yeah. Let's hear it.
Yeah, to fund my trip to Blade. I think I'm going to raffle off a whole kitchen set.
Are you really?
Nice.
I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Actually, I'm like 95% sure I'm going to do it. Yeah, so a 6-piece kitchen set with a magnetic stand.
Look at you. That's fancy. What kind of magnetic stand?
A homemade one.
Oh, okay. Very descriptive.
One
Thank
with
you.
one with magnets.
It's really got to be like the winner's choice, because you don't know what kitchen setup people have. So it'll either be one you hang on the wall, or it'll be a freestanding one you put on the
countertop.
Yeah. Or if they have a really small kitchen, I can do blade guards for all the blades, whoever wins wants. So
nice. Right on. Okay. Well, we'll look forward to that in the future.
I should actually be having an exciting raffle coming up as well. I haven't had a chance to post a whole lot on it yet, but I've been doing a lot of work back and forth with Palmgren Tools. I'm sure you guys have seen them. And they brought a bunch of tools to my shop. A small like bench top mill, lathe, grinder, variable speed buffer, drill press, and a bunch of stuff. And they actually came up and filmed, videographer, 2.5 days, me making a V42 Damascus stiletto from start to finish using their tools.
Wow.
But the biggest thing is, so if you guys remember, obviously I made a V42 for my very first part of the Army episode. So that was kind of like my entry, into, being a relatively decently known knife maker. So the V42 also has Army history in the military as well. But so I made that knife. They came, filmed it, and the plan is to raise as much money as possible raffling that knife, and then they're also going to bring it and display it at Blade Show, do raffle there as well, and it's an unlimited tickets type of thing. And the winner will win the dagger. But the amount of money that we raise for the raffle tickets on the dagger is going to be matched by the president of the company there at C.H. Hansen and Palmgren. And then all that money is going to be donated to Building Homes for Heroes. So that's going to be a really great cause.
Nice. And when can people look into this?
So I have just got to do the leather work on it, which got a nice blackened wrought iron pommel on it, Damascus guard, Damascus sandmite blade, and a reddish black ash burl handle. I'm going to be using black and red shark for the sheath. And then they've got to finish up, their videography portion to kind of make a little advertising thing with it and really drum it up. So I would say hopefully within the next month or so, we're going to start drumming it up, and we're hoping to get kind of like a third party, raffle site where people can just go, hey, click the link, buy raffle spots, so people from anywhere, whether they're at Blade Show or they're on my Instagram or whatever, can purchase tickets all at the same site, and all that money goes into one spot, and we can just raise as much as possible. So as soon as it's ready.
All right. Well, so people just need to go follow Wolf River Forge on Instagram and keep an eye on that if they're not going to be at Blade to get involved in.
Absolutely.
Right on. Well, guys, do we want to do some fake news? Okay. So Tyler, you probably don't know what we're talking about here, but this is a little segment we do where I read off 3 headlines. After I'm done reading off all 3 headlines, you, Ryan, and all of our lovely listeners get to try and guess which one of these headlines is satire, fake news, BS, complete fabrication. And I'm just going to go ahead and read them off right now.
So there's just one that's a lie and 2 are true?
One that's a lie, 2 are true. And some of these are listener submitted and some aren't. So we'll get into that afterwards. So, Florida man builds giant boat in backyard, quote, because the voices told him to. Next up, Florida woman calls for sugar daddy / mama appreciation day. And lastly, a man dual-wielding raw steaks slaps diners in the face at a vegan restaurant, yelling, quote, if you don't eat your meat, you can't have any pudding. And I see Ryan's face right now because I saw that Ryan had shared this one on a story, but it was also sent to me, and I apologize to whoever sent it to me. I couldn't find it. But Ryan probably knows that not everything on the internet is true. So it is entirely possible that even though he shared it to his story, it still could just be a fake headline.
No way. I'm a perpetrator of fake news. I did not read that article. I read the headline and I said, ha, and I posted it. So I have no idea.
All right. So we're just going to recap here. Florida man builds giant boat in backyard, quote, because the voices told him to. Florida woman calls for a sugar daddy / sugar mama appreciation day. And a man dual-wielding raw steaks slaps diners in the face at a vegan restaurant, yelling, if you don't eat your meat, you can't have any pudding. Where's the fake news?
I'm going to go with the meat slapping. Although I feel like any one of these stories could be entirely true in today's world.
Yeah,
that's usually what Noah goes for. It's got to be believable as well as fake.
Right.
Since I posted it, I'm going to say I'm a bad internet guy and I posted fake news probably. That's probably fake.
Tyler, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm thinking it's the fake news with the slapping people in the face with the steaks.
All right, both of you. Final answer. You can't eat your meat. If you don't eat your meat, you can't have any pudding. I'm sorry, boys. That one is entirely true. A man really did run into a vegan restaurant, slapping people in the face with raw meat. A Florida woman really did call for a sugar daddy appreciation day, but unfortunately, a Florida man did not build a giant boat in his backyard because the voices told him to. That one was courtesy of Todd Harrington. So thank you, Todd.
Thanks, Todd.
The Florida woman, that was Chandler Knives on Instagram. Thank you very much. And again, I'm sorry, I can't remember who sent me the raw steak slap. But the first, so the fake one, the Florida man builds giant boat in backyard because the voices told him to, was off of a list of different Florida man stories that Todd sent me that were based on biblical stories, where people took random biblical stories and turned them into Florida man headlines. So the Florida man builds giant boat in backyard, quote, because the voices told him to, is a Florida man story based on my namesake of Noah in the Bible, where he built a giant boat in his backyard. So I figured that was appropriate.
Interesting.
There's nothing to say that an
Todd
Alabama man or a Minnesota man didn't have voices telling him to make a boat, though.
Lately, it's been Ohio man. Ohio man's having a serious rivalry with Florida man.
Right.
Yeah, that's weird. You wouldn't think so.
I don't know. I've never been to Ohio, but I mean, have you met Jeremy? I mean, Jeremy says some weird stuff. Just kidding. I love you, Jeremy.
Jeremy Ballaball?
Yeah.
He's from Ohio?
Yeah. You didn't know that?
Maybe he knows what's going on. Ohio's been wilding out lately.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard from him on it, but yeah, I was actually just talking to him earlier today. Him and B-Cone are doing some heat treating today up in Ohio. But we've had, I mean, it's surprising. There are actually a lot of knife makers in Ohio. I didn't really think of it as like a hotbed for knife making, but there's quite a few guys out there. I think Chumney Knives is out there. Yep. Jeremy's out there. I'm sorry if I'm forgetting you, but there are a lot of really great knife makers out there in Ohio. So apparently they're just dodging all of the crazy
Jesse
people.
Miller as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Nice. What do you say we wrap this up, switch over to the after show?
I think it's about that time, guys. So are you going to go ahead and play us a little Patreon ditty there?
Yeah, I'm going to play us out Patreon ditty and some intro. And if you're not a patron, you don't get to listen to it. I'm sorry. You're bumming. But if you are a patron, we love you. And
we'll see you soon.
Canceled. Yeah.
You're listening to the Hustle and Grind podcast, a podcast for all the makers out there hustling and grinding every day to turn their dreams into reality. If you'd like to show your support, you can go to patreon.com/hustleandgrind, and for as little as $1 a month, you can help us all keep hustling and grinding. And remember, every time H&G gets a new patron, an angel gets its wings.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Thanks, Tyler.
Have a good one, everybody.